The 2025 NASCAR season is fast approaching and just around the corner. What can fans expect to see this coming year? I couldn't think of a better person to ask those questions than veteran journalist Bob Pockrass of Fox Sports. He sat down with me and answered a variety of questions about the upcoming season, including if Kyle Busch can get a win and who he thinks will make the championship four and win the title. And now I'd like to welcome back to the channel for his first appearance in 2025, Bob Pockrass of Fox Sports. Hey, Bob, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem, Kyle.
So before we get into, talking shop, I want to talk to you about what does Bob Pockrass, besides covering the lawsuit, silly season, what does Bob Pockrass do in the off season for fun? Did you take any trips, do anything exciting?
Just saw a lot of family. Had to travel to see family, so that's pretty much where all my trips were. Just trying to hit friends and family who I hadn't seen during the season.
Okay. It's time to talk shop and what's going to happen in 2025. So, uh, you know, the lawsuit, the aforementioned lawsuit between 2311 and Front Row Motorsports and NASCAR. Talk to me, Bob. What are the latest developments with that?
Well, the latest developments are, so far the teams have gotten injunctions so that they can race as chartered teams, as well as get this each of them having bought a Stewart Haas Racing charter to have that charter transfer approved. So as of today, both 2311 and Front Row Motorsports are three-car chartered teams. NASCAR is appealing those injunctions in the U.S. Court of Appeals, but right now they haven't put in anything for an emergency stay, which would delay the enforcement of the injunctions until the appeal is heard. Right now, the appeal is supposed to be heard sometime in May. So
Okay.
most likely, if anything happens, it would happen much, deeper into, or, about a quarter of the way through, third of the
Right.
way through the season rather than prior to the Daytona 500.
Right. So I saw earlier, Bob, that you commented on X about the Brad Keselowski conversation with Kelly Earnhardt Miller on the business of NASCAR. And he said something along the lines of the lawsuit and an OEM leaving are the two biggest threats to NASCAR. So, I mean, it's a pretty big statement. I understand the OEM, but to say that the lawsuit. So, what do you make of that statement by Brad?
What I make is that I don't know about a threat as much as the impact, potential impact of the way the sport is run, right? And
Right.
how it's run. And so I would say, I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to put words into Brad Keselowski's mouth or anything like that, but obviously, the result of this lawsuit could impact the way the sport is run. I mean, theoretically, and this is just very theoretical,
Right.
they could, part of the lawsuit is that the next gen, because because NASCAR controls the distributors of the parts and pieces of the next gen car, that means that the teams are, kind of have a fixed price, right, of what they spend on a car. If the it could be that they see that as a key element, and they don't have the next gen car, right? And then that way the teams can spend, as much money or as little money as
Right.
they want on a car. Or it could be that, during the hearing the other day, NASCAR would be willing to go without charters, right?
Right.
Totally. That. So while the teams are hoping that they get some better elements to the charter agreement, that isn't a guarantee that that is the way this lawsuit litigation ends, so, or results in.
Right.
So I think that uncertainty probably is, what has people wondering, okay, will this lawsuit have a big impact or not? It may have very little impact
Right.
depending on what the result is, but it does have the potential to change a little bit of the way the sport is run.
Right. The other news, obviously, which comes in every offseason, Bob, is silly season. And so, with the dismantling of Stewart Haas Racing, we have four drivers going to different, going their different ways. I'm just curious of the four, I think I know the answer, but I'm curious to hear what you think. Who do you think will have the most successful year in 2025 of those four drivers?
Um, of those four drivers, I mean, I think you look at Chase Briscoe certainly has the best shot, right,
Right.
at Joe Gibbs Racing. He may have the most pressure on him
Right.
as well. I don't see a lot of pressure on Noah Gragson at front row. I think to perform right away. Ryan Priest probably has a little bit of pressure, but I think they'll give him an adjustment period there for him. So
Right.
I think it's I think we'll see what and then Josh Berry over at the Wood Brothers. Again, is there pressure there? Yes, but I don't think as much again as Chase Briscoe. I think Chase Briscoe probably has the most tools to perform well. He goes to a team that has a history of performing well.
Right.
And so, you would think that he's stepping into the best situation.
Right. Another big story from last year that I think going into this year was Kyle Busch's consecutive streak of winning a race at least once in a season ended at 19. So I'm curious, do you think that Busch gets back into the winning column in 2025?
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, of course, if you asked me with 10 races to go in 2024, would he win? I'd probably would have said yes as well. So, but yes, I think he does. I mean, look how close they came to winning a race in 2024. You figure if they get that close again, that they're going to win a race in 2025.
Right. You just talked about the pressure of the SHR drivers. Just in general, do you feel like there's any pressure on any particular drivers this year that they have, pressure to perform because this might be a contract year or whatever? I mean, I was thinking might be on the hot seat Daniel Suarez and Alex Bowman. Those seem to be common names that we talked about last year. So, do you think that those guys or anyone else might be on the hot seat for 2025?
I would say those two would probably be the ones that you would look at the most. But they also have, Daniel Suarez has pretty good relationships with the sponsors he has, and obviously Alex Bowman does as well with Ally. So, um, I think, I do think the pressure is on them to perform, but they also have some support. I think financially that's important to consider as well. I think when you look at silly season, I'm going to look at Kyle Busch, right? And
Right.
he's the one that, I mean, if they perform well off the start, you think, okay, he's going to stay. But if they struggle, what is he going to feel about how much is he going to look, and how much is he going to look, and where does he end up? I think will be kind of a big storyline, especially maybe not going into Daytona, but I would say by the time you get to April or May, it will be.
Okay, that's really interesting. I was listening to Larry McReynolds on Friday, and he was talking about this past season that Kyle Larson had the most Cup Series wins. He led the series, and then the previous year it was William Byron. So he predicted that 2025, an HMS driver would have the most wins in this series, but he also said he thought that one HMS driver would go winless. So I could only assume he's talking Elliott or Bowman. I'm curious from your perspective, Bob, who do you think has the most, what driver do you think will get the most wins in 2025? And do you think it's possible that there is a driver at HMS that goes winless?
I mean, anything's possible, but I mean, they all won races last year, right?
Right.
And so I mean, I think they all win races this year. I don't think any of them go winless, and I think Kyle Larson wins the most races. I wouldn't see why that changes. And that's not to say he's going to win the championship, but
Right.
I do think he's going to put himself in position to win races. He has a great team, and I don't see why anything would change.
Okay. Now let's go on to the younger guys. Who do you think of the younger guys gets their first win in 2025? And do you think it's possible that Carson Hocevar gets a first win before Ty Gibbs? Because I know everybody's been talking about Ty and he's coming up on the 100 race mark. Do you think it's possible that Hocevar can beat him to victory lane?
I think Ty Gibbs gets the first win. I think he'll be the first time winner in 2025. Look, I mean, is it possible that Carson Hocevar gets a win? Sure, before Ty, but I think Ty Gibbs has knocked on the door of wins more often than Carson Hocevar. It'll be very interesting to see how much Spire does improve, especially with Michael McDowell there,
Right.
and obviously Rodney Childers now there as a crew chief for Justin Haley. But yeah, Carson Hocevar, does he have a chance to win? Yes, but he's gonna have to beat his teammates to do
Sure.
it, and his teammates are gonna be, I think, are gonna be factors in races as well.
Right. So, a couple more questions for you, Bob. Give me one storyline. You just mentioned Kyle Busch, which I wasn't thinking of as far as contracts, but give me one storyline that you're paying attention to for this season.
Let's see, a storyline for this season. I think one thing I'm looking at is Martinsville was such a good race with the softer tire.
Right.
Is that going to continue at other short tracks and road courses? What tires NASCAR and Goodyear going to bring, and is that going to improve racing at those tracks? Look, the intermediate races have been great, but NASCAR does need to improve the racing on the short tracks. It looked like NASCAR took a really solid step on Saturday or at Martinsville,
Right.
and now I think the big question is, can they continue?
All right, last question, and you know what it is. Who do you think makes the championship four, and who is hoisting the Bill France Cup in Phoenix? Because we know it's not going to be Joey Logano since it's going to be an odd numbered year.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm answering these on January 20th. So
Right.
if my
Absolutely.
predictions change between now and when they run prior to the Daytona 500, don't
Okay.
vote against me. But I am going to say um, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, and Tyler Reddick will be my four. And then of those, I will say. Right now, I'd say Kyle Larson won the title of those four.
Okay. Good picks. I mean, those are really solid picks. Contrary to what Larry Mack was saying about one driver not winning, I think he was in the
Mhm.
end, I think Kyle Larson is always going to be the HMS driver that everybody predicts to win. So good pick for you, Bob. All right, Bob. I appreciate you taking the time to visit with me. Look forward to having you on the channel for more visits this season, and I'll see you in a few weeks at Daytona.
All right, see you there, Kyle. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.